It's like, go live, stop talking. Is it?
Do we have anything left to say?
Yeah.
Exactly. We've already covered so much off camera.
Yeah, that's
Come
all
on
off,
in, come on in, everybody.
That's
If
all
you're
off
awake,
camera
come in.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there's your next show. Just record off camera and then post it.
Yeah, well, that's what gets you banned.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Hello out there. Thanks for listening, or thanks for watching us later. I know it's early for these guys. For Charles, it's still early, but for Glenn and Russ, it's early or late morning.
And they're ready for their first naps.
Yeah, snap time.
Almost nap time. Come on in. We're trying out a new show. We're not sure if we're going to keep doing this. We're going to see how the numbers run, but it's something I've always wanted to do. And I've seen that a lot of the folks late at night are pulling in viewership, and I want to see if we can hit that as well when nobody else is broadcasting. So it's 5 a.m. where I am. It's early morning, 10 a.m. where they are. I'm switching. Give me a second to switch over to my Facebook so I can, because they never get this right. Grumble.
Start as you mean to go on.
Yeah.
If you thought he was grumpy normally, wait till you see him grumpy at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, hey, yeah. This will be great. We'll see how I am towards the end of the show. So, come on in, folks. We're calling this Comics by Night. It's going to be a different show than what the Indie Comics Network is currently running, to a point where I want it to be more of a teaching show, more of a talking and learning show. A little bit of talk, a little bit of learning. I want to do a lot of things in this program to help artists and to help people in comics to understand what we're doing, because it's not something.
Do you have to wear a hat?
It's not mandatory, but if you're in low enough light so that you can get away with that. We all, the rest of us, wear hats to keep the glow down.
Get some advertising in. I like
sheen.
that.
There you are. Also, that's all experience right there. You learn enough, your hair just says, screw this, I'm out of here. So, I got a little opening I'm kind of proud of, because I threw it together really fast last night.
Because you've been careful with it.
I've been real careful with it. Anyway. Kind of sums up what we want to do with the show. Here we go.
What was that? This is not a charade. We need total concentration. Now, once again, this time, with theory.
Seems to sum it up right there.
That's the best intro I've ever seen. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh dear!
How dare you?
Disney need to use that in their starting credits. They'll get a lot more people in.
They need to do something.
That was a clip from one of my favorite movies that nobody ever talks about. So that was a movie within a movie. That's from Kentucky Fried Movie.
I was about to say, was that Kentucky Fried Movie? Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
A Fistful of Yen.
I have a hideous story about that. It's very quick. My sister brought it home and said we should all sit down and watch it.
Oh,
and
boy.
I was like 10 or something. So it was the most embarrassing thing ever. I'm sitting there and my parents are on the sofa and I'm watching this and she's giggling away and there's people getting banged in the shower and I'm like, oh no, this is so embarrassing. And my mum and dad were completely stony faced. Awful.
I'd run that, but we'd get banned on YouTube. So it's hilarious. It's a trailer for Catholic high school girls in trouble.
They were in trouble.
Come on in, everyone. Like I said, thanks for joining us. The chat is already active, and I love you all. Here we go. Oh, it's Marvy in the house.
G'day, Marv.
Says Sam. That's crazy. Greetings. That should be mandatory. Yes. Oh, hat. I might have said hat. A translation, please.
Well, somebody's up.
But we need total concentration. It was either that or the toy robot scene. It just sums it all up for what we want to do with this show. Come on in. This is Comics by Night, or if you're Glenn and Russ, Comics by late afternoon or late morning. So
Brunch time.
Brunch. Comics by brunch.
By brunch.
Yeah. There we are. I am your host, Randy Zimmerman. You can call me Zim, just whatever. You can reach me at randyjzim@gmail.com. And I changed that email address just in case you want to tip me and send me a PayPal. You're welcome to do so at randyjzim@gmail.com. So I'll always, I'm not begging for money, but always welcome tips. So here we go. I've been in this business for decades, and I've done just about everything that you can imagine in the industry, retailed, created my own newspaper for 10 years that I circulated locally, chased after advertising, met my wife while I was retailing. I've coordinated conventions for over 10 years, run shows, even if they're just one-day shows. I don't try to do a 2-day show because that's madness. It's just complete insanity. But that's just my opinion. But done comics, self-published comics for many years under the Arrow Massive Weeby Comics banners, and dealt with the direct market and Silly Diamond. We had a great show on Wednesday where I had a couple of retailers on talking about the fun of retailing. So it's almost like working, drawing physical comics. You have to be a little crazy to do it, or to want to do it. It's not everybody else would just look at you and shake your head and go, why? Why do you do this? So we have a lot of respect for retailers, but the market has changed and shifted so much over the years. But outside of gaining computers, not a whole lot has changed in creating comics. I think it was, Sunday? We pulled out rulers and Ames lettering guides and
yeah.
And
well,
watched.
We figured it out. Apparently, the industry's figured out how to make them lousier. That's something.
That's a concerted effort right there. I think it's intentional. I really do. So come on, everybody. We want to discuss the bones of doing what we do. If you have a question, feel free to throw it in the chat today, especially. Other shows will have themes. I want to do all sorts of cool things on this show. I want to do tutorials where you're teaching people how to draw. I want to and write. I want to do especially do tutorials on writings for sequential art, as opposed to everything else, because it is a creative market. It's a creative field. There's no one certain way to write a script, and anybody that tells you otherwise is full of shit, quite frankly. And we're TVMA DLSV. I don't have a warning box yet to throw up in the corner, because I've been in the middle of a commercial job and wasn't able to do much other than that opening for the show this morning. But we appreciate everybody here and listening. We appreciate everybody else listening in the later in the archives. Once you wake up, you can listen to Comics by Night over at the Indie Comics Network. So, also join
any time of day.
Any time of day.
Any time of day, yeah.
Whenever you need to. Also joining me today is Mr. Glenn Fleming. Glenn, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Glenn Fleming. I'm a writer, artist, and publisher. My latest effort is this, which you can get from me now. I've taken it out of In Demand on Indiegogo, but you get that from me. And it details my visits to the house of Jack Kirby back in the late 80s and early 90s. And with that, you also get a DVD of me talking to Jack in his studio. Quite historic document there. I also write and draw Hatch. This is the first book, and the second book is going on Indiegogo any day now. And I also publish Comics Unlimited, which is a 100-page quarterly magazine about comics worldwide, and we have interviews and show lots of fantastic artwork.
Excellent. Also with me today is Mr. Russ Leach. Russ, introduce yourself.
Hello there, my name's Russ Leach. I am a comic book artist from the UK. I've done a fair bit in my short time. I've done 35 years in production, design, publishing, advertising, marketing, all that kind of stuff, and got into drawing comics around 2010 because I wanted to change a career. I wanted to get back to the thing that I loved. And since that time, I've been able to draw licensed characters for Marvel. I've worked a lot for Panini in Europe. So I've done some Marvel work, like I say, Ben 10 for the Cartoon Network. I've done a lot of Doctor Who. I'm just coming off a run of Doctor Who in Doctor Who magazine. I'll be doing the last story ever with Jodie Whittaker in as the Doctor. And then I'll be starting a run on Batman for the UK and Europe, kids magazine. So that'll be good fun because that's something I've always wanted to do. And you can also find out more about my book at my website, russleach.com. You get Only Death Can Save Us. The second book is currently on Indiegogo now, and will be finished before the end of the year, and I'll be sending those out. And you can pick up a copy of the first book there as well.
Excellent. So they're letting you talk about the Batman gig now?
The Batman's all open now. Yeah, it's a bi-monthly book for it's a kids magazine, so it's hero time. They do Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and they do Batman hero time. So Batman is every other month, and or every 8 weeks. And it's an activity book for kids, which I think is a really good idea. Get some reading, get some doing stuff, and you also get 10 pages of comic strip. It's not originally they toyed with the idea of maybe doing a kind of a Ben 10 kind of feel to it, but eventually they said no, let's just go with the kind of a standard kind of feel to the Batman strip. So it's not dark in the way that a lot of the older strips are, more adult strips are, but at the same time it's not talking down to the kids either. It's drawn with adventure in mind. So it's
almost like a Silver Age feel to it.
Oh yeah, I'll say more Bronze Age, but yeah, that kind
Age?
of thing.
Yeah,
more
okay.
Bronze Age, yeah. So yeah, that's on its way soon. Launches 14th of September in the UK, and I believe Brazil and Italy are soon to follow.
Sweet, that's got to be great.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bucket list item without a doubt. Yeah. once you've joined, I'm more of a Marvel guy, really. But obviously, every comic book artist will say, "Well, what's the one you want to draw?" Batman. I've loved Batman, obviously, like every other comic book artist since I was a kid, and so to be able to draw the character officially is a big deal. Yeah,
Get paid for it as well.
And it's like I say, it's officially, as with everything, when it's something hopefully we'll come on to discuss in the show or later shows. Part of my drive to be a comic book artist isn't just to draw, is to be good enough to be paid for it.
Yeah,
that's the point. That's half the whole point, is to be that professional, is to be able to draw something, to do things that people feel are valuable enough to give a portion of their life, which is their money, effectively to have. So very important aspect of it. For me personally, it doesn't mean that people want to do it as a hobby. That's not a big. That they can't act professionally, be professional, do things well. Of course they can, but for me personally, it was always about it being a profession as well.
Right. Marvi says, not in Portugal. I have Panini too.
I don't know. I'm afraid I don't. All I know is that it's the UK, Italy, Brazil, Germany, and France at the moment, I think.
Well,
so
if it's going to
see how it goes.
If it's going to be translated into Brazil, Portuguese, it should be in Portugal, I would have thought.
Well, you would have thought, but I don't know. That's down to Panini and DC and whatever they decide to do. So
I have a Panini as well. It's sitting in my refrigerator.
Yeah, get that one toasted.
It's already toasted.
Yummy.
Also joining us today is Mr. Charles Santino. Charles, introduce yourself.
Well, I'm humbled to be in such company.
No,
stop it!
Oh, but there's no. Don't go that route. No. You're the man. You're the man, Charles.
I've been around, I think, at least as long as these fellows, maybe a little bit longer. Perhaps the elder statesman here. Started out working for Marvel in the mid to late 80s, and have been doing it ever since. Currently, Rammer is my boy, and I had to go to the fabulous UK to get this published because they recognize talent in the UK, as talented as they are. And this is published by Marcosia, the fabulous Harry Marcos. This is the first issue. The second issue will be coming out shortly. Rammer, as you can see from the cover, is a master thief in a future police state. Kind of like a Judge Dredd perp that I think could probably kick Dredd's ass. but that's subjective. So that's me. I'm a writer, editor, art director, and packager. I guess we're all packagers here. I'm the only one here who does not draw, which means that I hire people like these fellows and sometimes fire them as well, but I would never fire these guys.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, I was looking. We just we started talking to Chad Perkins. He's been on a couple of our shows lately, and he does a book called Blue Lullaby that Marcosia also plays.
Yeah. Marcosia's got hundreds of titles. They're the biggest independent publisher in the UK.
That's one from Marcosia.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's another one as well.
Nice hardback volume.
Yeah, and I'm gonna brag a little on myself. I found out that I've had 3 different titles published by them, and Harry said in an interview that he gets 100 submissions a month, and he usually picks one out of those. And I'm 3 for 3, which means I beat out 297 other proposals. So
wow.
Yeah, but you did a lot of work for Marvel, so you had an idea of what.
That doesn't mean I'm any good.
Yeah, no.
Well, now it wouldn't. No.
What Harry does do though is he recognises people that are going to produce. So maybe your second or third might be a little bit more straightforward to get through the process because he trusts you.
Yeah,
he knows that you're going to produce, but he's still got to look at the value of what it's going to bring to Marcosia as a publishing house. And so if definitely right, Charles is absolutely right. If he's getting in there, it's because he's bringing value, and Harry can see that. He can see he just picks out the right stuff. I mean, there's so many great books from Marcosia. So many great books.
It has been said that the ability to recognize talent is even rarer than talent.
Yeah.
And Harry's got a good eye.
He does, yeah.
This is what we were saying earlier about Stan Lee with the pop art thing that we reckoned Martin Goodman was just letting him get on with it because the figures were coming in.
Yeah, Pop Art Productions. They were by 1965. By that point, they were selling 2 or 3 times as many comics as they had been just a few years earlier. And Stan Lee decided pop art's a big thing. Let's call ourselves Marvel Pop Art Productions. And I think it lasted, 4 months or something like that. And the fan reaction was swift and totally negative.
Well, it was also Stan's attempt to get in with the hip crowd.
Yes, trying to.
Hey, dudes, we're hip just like you.
If you have to say you're hip, you might not be.
I actually think Harry and Marcosia are in a very good position at the moment. They've been going for a long time, and he's been investing in talent. And you do the deal with Harry because in his mind he has a library of intellectual property that can be moved into other media. And we're in a situation now where entertainment is lagging. It's really gagging on its own tongue, shall we say. It's having trouble. Okay, and it's going to be looking for new things. It really will. There's going to be a bit of a watershed, I believe, soon, and then new stuff will have to come through. And Harry's got a bank of intellectual property that's just, ready to go.
Yeah, another aspect of this is that I had the option of self-publishing, but I looked at the work involved in that, and I just decided, if I partner with him, I don't make as much money theoretically, but I'm doing half the work.
Yeah, that's hassle.
And I can do something else with that time. I promote the stuff.
Yeah. That's the worst part of the crowdfunding for me is the fulfillment thing. It's not that I don't mind, I don't want to do it, but I don't want to do it. It's just awful. It's just awful going through it all. And
I did it once, and it was moderately successful, and I knew it was going to be a lot of work, but it was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, and I will not be doing it again.
Well, back in May, June, when I got my Kirby book orders, I toddled off to the post office, and when I walked in with all the packages, they laughed, but they didn't laugh the next day when I went with the same amount. They didn't because they only had 2 tills, you know, 2, whatever you call it, where they serve you, 2 little places, and I took it up for about 30 minutes.
That's got to be the worst part, I think, of fulfillment is taking those packages to the post office.
Well, the second time I went, they had me park in their car park and go through their entry door.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to get in the queue. And
how many were you posting at a time?
I think I posted there's about 30, I think, at a time.
Right.
So
I was posting 20 at a time.
Yeah.
Going down twice a week for a month. So
well, I had this problem when I published Crikey as well. They got to, because it was bi-monthly, they got to know the day I was going in, and I was taking in at one point over 300 subscriptions, and Sweet. I put them all in a big IKEA bag, 2 IKEA bags, you know, them big bags, Russ, like Santa's sack. And I would go in, and when I used to go in, I purposely avoided the big post office, the main post office. I went to a little sub branch. It was a bit more friendlier and all this kind of thing. So the girls in there, they got to know me, and as soon as I appeared, I could see the faces drop, because one of them was always assigned to 300 envelopes, and it got to the point where they said to me, "Why don't we give you the stamps and you just put them on and then just leave the packages?" So being a bit pissed off that day, I said, "Why don't you just do your job?" And I said, I was laughing, and I said, they laughed, you know, and I said, "I'm keeping you this place open, so you should be grateful."
we have a quiet little local post office, and if you get in there before 8:30, then there's no one in there, so you can, they don't mind you turning up. So, like I say, I do 20 at a time, and it works. This will be the last time I do a crowdfunder, though, I think. I think I'm more like, I've mentioned, I might be going through Amazon or maybe somebody else, I don't know yet. But the idea being that it just makes it cheaper for the customer. So for instance, I can put a book up on Amazon for $10 or £10, sorry. And it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot less than 20, you know, or 25 that you would do through crowdfunding, and they take care of the printing and they take care of the postage.
Well, I got more orders through me than I did from Indiegogo.
Okay. Right. There you go.
So that's telling me something.
Well,
sorry, like you say, putting it on Amazon takes. I mean, it's like Charles was saying, you get less money and all that kind of thing, but the hassle just disappears because you just takes you a couple of hours to upload it and fill the little form things in and all that, and then it's there. And then 2 days to clear and all that kind of stuff, and then it's there, and that's all you've got to do.
Do you print them yourself?
Yeah, one might ask, why was I crowdfunding if I have a publisher? Because initially Harry said we're not going to do individual floppies. There'll be no print on, but we'll collect the first 3 in print, and that'll be available on Amazon, but there'll be no individual print issues. And I thought, okay, I'd like to have print of this. And I said to Harry, I will do a crowdfunding to raise the money to print copies of the first issue, and I'll do a reverse royalty with you. I will pay you a percentage of what I sell, because you're not going to get anything out of this if I'm printing something that you're not printing and then I'm selling it. And he said, no, this is the kind of guy Harry is. He said, no, go ahead and do it. And it's great publicity for the book, and sell as many as you want through crowdfunding and print as many as you want. Well, right before I was to go to print, after the crowdfunding was done, I was looking at barcodes, and I don't know anything about barcodes. And I thought, well, I have a publisher. Let me talk to my publisher. He can help me with barcodes. And I found out at that moment that he now had the ability to print on demand the individual issues, and they had to be at least 48 pages because they were going to be square bound in the so-called prestige format. And I thought, oh, well, lucky me, the first issue is 48 pages. So I was able to get the printed copies to do the fulfillment through Ingram, through the print on demand through Ingram. And that's how it's available on Amazon. It's print on demand. So you don't have a, quote, first edition, because it's print on demand, but it saved me the trouble of having to figure out barcodes, find a printer, go through a printer, and all of that nonsense. So I figured, okay, well, the only reason I did crowdfunding in the first place was to have a print version, but moving forward, there's going to be a print version of every individual issue, so why would I do the crowdfunding again?
Yeah, definitely.
One of the important thing here that we all know about is the ISBN number, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's important.
I don't have to deal with that. Harry deals with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, he's already bought blocks and blocks of numbers.
Exactly.
Anyways. He just
He's doing all that. He's doing all that stuff that drives me out of my mind that I don't want to have anything to do with.
Yeah, there's a trade-off with any deal you do with a publisher, including Harry, and Marcosia, is that you obviously trade some of your IP for it, but they manage that end. They do all that end. So that's what you're effectively doing. You're effectively buying that service from them with your sweat equity.
That's exactly. That's the same with King Features. They take 50-50. So when Schultz was publishing, Peanuts, he drew it and sent it in, and they put it all around the world, and they both take 50-50. I think that's really fair. Really fair.
Well, it's to a civilian, it might not, until you realize the amount of work that goes into what the publisher, distributor, syndicate, or whatever, what they're actually doing for that 50%. And it didn't take me long to figure out it was worth it.
Yeah. Well, John Byrne wrote an article about this, didn't he? About when the creators' rights thing in the 80s, when people wanted bigger royalties and all this kind of stuff. And he said, and I knew what he meant, I could see it, and I'm sure you guys could. People don't understand that. I mean, I did this with Crikey. When I printed Crikey, I was immediately a couple of grand down before I'd sold a copy, and that's because I was the publisher. So I had to pay for the printing, and I had to pay not upfront, but within a few weeks. You know how it works, because he wants his money. He doesn't care whether it sells. He just wants his money, the printer, and that's what John Byrne was talking about. He said what people don't understand is that you might create, say, Spider-Man, and the publisher gets probably more than 50%, 60%, but most people don't seem to understand that, like I say, they've got to pay for the printing, the distribution, they've got people checking things, the editing things, and all that kind of area. And that's what a lot of self-publishing people don't understand about the mainstream publishing, so-called, because, like Charles said, he's happy to let Marcosia have a chunk of it. Peanuts sold pretty well, I believe. He was willing to let them have 50% of it, and that's a good deal, I think.
Yep.
And he owned the trademark.
He owned it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the trademark was able to control the marketing and all of that. Yeah.
That's what you want to be able to retain. So basically, all you want to be doing is handing over a percentage of publishing rights.
Exactly.
Not the actual IP.
Well,
different publishers have different deals. So
it's like if you got to make a decision. Do you want to create, or do you want to be a businessman?
Well, 50% of nothing is nothing.
The other thing that Harry is he's my agent for exploitation of the property in other media.
Yeah.
So I don't have people in Hollywood. But Harry does. Yeah. So all of his properties are run by these agents in Hollywood who are trying to get these things made into movies, TV shows, whatever. I can't do that. Or let me put it this way. I'm not going to do that because I have somebody doing it. And he's taken a big chunk of it, but he's doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Yep. I've got that kind of deal with the War of the Worlds property with Caliber. They keep it in print. They do the promotion, the marketing for it. They keep half of the money. of anything that it generates. So I get a check once a quarter that's good enough for a quick trip to McDonald's. But in the meantime, they have the digital is always available. The hard copy is always available through Amazon. And it's a book that I'm particularly proud of. So I'm happy to, see it out there and still under people's nose. There's still people reading it. So happy about that. Hojo's in the house. Hail panel. Hail chat. Hail. The Sin Killer. Okay. Sin says, what happened? Says hello to Hojo. Something happened here on Facebook too. You freeze. Maybe it's me. Well, we seem to be smooth right now, but
yeah.
StreamYard always has problems lately with equipment. Xfinity, my cable company, has been having some nasty problems lately with they've been updating constantly. It seems every day they do a small update, and it's usually right at the most inconvenient time in the afternoon. So we end up losing their cable service, usually right around the time the wife's soaps come on. So I get to hear it. And if it's not Xfinity, it's the silly politics president or the January 6th hearings that pop in and interrupt her. Yeah, interrupt the soaps. Hojo says Alterna Comics does this. You produce your own book. You crowdfund. They handle all the printing and fulfillment and take 20% as well as help with promotion. That's a sweet deal, especially once you get into doing it. Like what Russ said, you do it once or twice and you decide whether or not you want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like that with independent publishing in general, though, especially because there used to be so little money involved in it. Once you do it once and you hold that copy in your hand, if you're going to do that the rest of your life, you really do. And it just, something goes off, whether it's the print ink or what, you just decide that's it for you or it's not it for you. So
now that we got warmed up here, I'm looking at Randy, I'm looking at your promotion for this stream. Mm-hmm. It says the behind-the-scenes mechanics and creativity it takes to produce ideas, stories, and characters into fantastic art can be discussed at all hours. So I'm looking at that, and I'm trying to think like a viewer, and I'm thinking, okay, so if that's what enticed me to watch, what are the types of things, the questions I might have and things that I might want to discuss now that we've gotten warmed up? We got an hour and a half left. So I'm wondering what kinds of other things people watching might want discussed, because they're talking to 4 seasoned veterans here, pros who know everything about everything. So what do they want? The only question I will not abide is, where do you get your ideas? That's the answer is my brain. That's where the ideas come from, my brain. So if you have a brain, then you can probably have ideas too. So
I have a small tree in the backyard. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah. But I'm wondering what we think people want to hear for the next hour and a half.
But don't forget, you do get your ideas from your brain. But if you've not got that special app that the universe gave you to get that idea all that way down your arm and onto a page, then you just got ideas.
Well, you got to have.
And I don't know where you get that either.
Well, you got to have a certain amount of drive. I know a lot of people who are, I would say, very intelligent, very creative people, who have done very little because they don't have the drive. It does take a lot of drive, and it takes something else that I think is probably a rare quality: the ability to eat disappointment for breakfast, to constantly be disappointed. Even after you get a certain amount of success, there are going to be disappointments. But in the beginning, it's going to be disappointment after, and it's going to be people not giving you a shot, people not recognizing your talent, people showing you the door, people not giving you an audience. And that can be devastating. And if you can't deal with that at the beginning or even later, then if you don't have the stomach for that, then it doesn't matter how talented you are and how creative you are.
Add to that list ripping off as well. There'll be people that are trying to do you over, okay, and take advantage of you, and you have to be aware of that. I think the most important things are honesty to yourself. Be honest with yourself, with your abilities, and what you want to do, and discipline.
Now, there are a lot of different ways to be ripped off.
There are.
And a question...
I seem to be finding them. Yeah.
A question, yes, indeed. A question that you can be asked frequently, I've been asked frequently, is have you ever actually had an idea or story just simply stolen from you? And it happens... It's exceedingly rare, but it did happen to me once. There was somebody that got the license for what I would call a major intellectual property, something everybody's heard of. I'm not going to mention what it is, but at the time, nobody was interested in this property. This person had the property and was going to produce some comic books based on it, and I pitched an idea. And never heard back from him. And then he went ahead and published, basically took my idea, fleshed it out, got an artist to draw it, and published it. And that it's only happened once. And at the time I was just starting out, I didn't really even care about getting paid, just getting the credit. But it's actually very rare that something will literally be stolen from you. More often, there's tricks played with your rights or things like that, or payment. But having something just stolen from you is rare.
Yeah, Hojo's just asked the question in the chat.
Let me pull that up.
He's pretty much answered it for himself. In this, or she, whoever Hojo is.
Hojo. He's a chain of. It used to be a chain of hotel stores and restaurants.
Right.
Or hotels, I should say, and restaurants here in the States.
They've
Hojo.
answered it in the next chat.
Well, he says I do have.
Should have made a contract.
How do you deal with an artist that is unprofessional? I made a down payment on a cover commission, and then found out that he likes to run off with new creators' money. Wonderful.
It helps to have a sixth sense about people.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than your gut. And I've been doing this a long time, and I've gotten burned a few times with artists who were irresponsible a-holes. And lately I've been very lucky. I think part of it is luck. Part of it is I've developed that sense about not getting involved with people who are not going to produce. And everybody here except me draws themselves, so they don't have to worry about hiring artists. But I do. And sometimes I go through agencies. And so the agency has vetted these people as far as their character. I did the first... I wrote the first Louis L'Amour graphic novel, The Western Writer, and Beau L'Amour, who handed me a script a movie script that I turned into a graphic novel. He said something to me I think about all the time. More important than a person's talent is their character. And you need to figure out the character of somebody you're hiring before you hire them. And there's nothing worse than being halfway through a comic, having half a comic drawn and having that artist disappear.
Yeah.
And it is a trick. It is a minefield. I've had people nope out on me for other creative services like colours and stuff like that. And you can always make a mistake. You're not infallible. Like Charles is saying, it really does help to have like a bit of a gut feel for these things. And most of the time you might get it right. But there's always going to be a time where someone slips through the net and you get.
I always try people out ahead of time. I'll give them a short assignment. Yeah. And if they can't produce a 4-page story in a reasonable amount of time, then that's it.
Yeah. I mean, especially with artists, talking about people's character, but it's also about their professional approach. The bottom line is sequential art is about telling stories. It's not about the prettiest picture on the page. Yes. And as much as you want good quality artwork, it's more important to have a well-told story. Now, that is integral with quality art. There must be some kind of level that people must attain. But at the same time, you can go to. I don't consider myself the best artist on the block by a long way, but I will get a story done, and it will be told well, and it will be drawn well. So there's ways of approaching it, and there's ways of approaching the people that you work with. Obviously, I'm coming at it specifically from an artist perspective. I do write as well, but it is a little bit harder for people who just write to find those people, because there are a lot of artists out there. There are a lot of artists that think that they could maybe give it a shot, and drawing pin-ups ain't going to cut it. You've got to be able to tell a story.
Yeah,
so true. Yep.
Yeah.
One thing that I found in this business is that it's so difficult because of the way the nature of the business, to separate friendships from professionalism.
Yeah.
And when it comes to money,
what could you be referring to, Randy?
I've painfully learned this over the last few years, to always, when it comes to money, always stay professional. Always get it on paper, get a contract, even if it's a couple of email exchanges of intent of how you're going to do it, because it keeps that official, and it gives you the rights to go after them if you want. And instead of doing the verbal contract or I always thought he was my friend, which, I like I said, I've the last couple of years, I've just gone through that rather severely, and I'm still paying for it, and will be for a while, financially, and let alone mentally.
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to throw out there is you do need to put some of the onus on the person doing the hiring. There's an awful lot of people out there, you see it on Facebook all the time. You never see artists on Facebook saying, I need a writer. Rarely. It's usually writers who are looking to hire artists. And okay, so now you're a newbie wannabe writer, you have an idea, and of course you've written an outline for 20 issues of with 10 universes, and now you're looking for somebody to
the
draw
ultimate
it.
Epic. Yeah.
So let's put the onus on the writer, creator, the newbie who has found an artist who has some credentials, has some experience, is pretty good, and now you're giving him a script that basically can't be drawn because you don't know what you're doing. You're writing a novel. You're not writing a comic book. Yeah. And so a lot of artists are going to get frustrated. Maybe the artist should do a better job vetting the assignment that they're taking in the first place, but it's just not a good match because the writer doesn't know what they're doing. And so the artist might not perform up to the standards that the writer wanted, but that's because the writer is not really giving the artist something that's professional, and the artist took the assignment, maybe shouldn't, maybe thought this will work out, maybe I can help this writer figure out how to make a comic, and it's just a bad fit. So communication is important. On the artist should be using their gut to decide whether to take the assignment or not.
Yeah, definitely. Although I have been involved in well-paying jobs where the story was pretty rubbish, and you just do it because you get paid. So if you're getting paid, it depends. If you're working for a larger publisher who's actually paying you per page, then it's a slightly different approach.
But it was doable. You took it because it might not have been high quality, but at least it was doable.
Yeah.
What was your input on that, Russ? Did you get a full script, or did you have any leeway on it?
I've had full scripts that aren't particularly well formed. To be honest, right. They seem to be written by people who don't know how to write comics.
Because the fascinated. Sorry, go ahead.
And what you do as a professional is fill in.
Yeah.
So you add panels where they haven't asked for them. You put in extra pieces of information into the panels to make the story work where the writer hasn't asked for it. And that's, as a professional sequential artist, that's kind of your job as well.
Did you get any negative feedback ever doing that?
No, I've never. Whenever I've changed a script to add a panel or to apply extra information within a page, or even taking a panel out of one page and putting it into the next because there's just too many panels on one page and not enough on the next, I can't ever remember any editor or writer ever telling me off for it or refusing my advice.
Well, because you made it better. I've had artists do that, not to that extent, but make more minor changes, and 99% of the time, the change makes it better.
I think
and sometimes I'll look at the picture and I'll go, wait a minute. The dialogue that I wrote, because I'm usually working lately with a full script, writing a full script, the dialogue isn't going to work, isn't going to fit. It's just not going to lay out.
Yeah.
But rather than have the artist change the picture because the picture looks fantastic, I will change the script.
Yeah.
In some cases, I have to change it to get the person who was going to be on the left speaking first.
Yeah.
Is not there anymore. Yeah. They're on the right. So now I'm thinking, am I going to have the artist change this, or am I going to change the dialogue so that the person who graphically needs to be speaking first on the left is speaking first?
Yeah.
And usually I will change the script. I will find a way to make my golden words fit. You know, I'm thinking, this is great, it's perfect, but now I have to change it. So I change it.
It's interesting to note that Alan Moore gives full scripts to his artists, but he's a cartoonist as well. So he's coming at it from an artistic viewpoint. And it's also, and to tag on to that, it's also interesting to see that Stan Lee was never an artist, and he got his artists to basically plot the stories. He might give them the idea.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I get editorial comeback if I get something wrong,
right?
Or if I haven't quite made the story work quite the right way, I'll get a response and like, no, can you make it so that it actually does this or that, or can we have a slightly different expression that isn't quite working with the script? That's a completely different thing to a script turning up and it basically being disjointed to the point that you can't follow it without word bubbles.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, you set me up perfectly for a point I wanted to make. Alan Moore. There are maybe 4 or 5 writers who are not artists who will storyboard script the comic.
Yeah.
And this is something that I do. I actually draw in really, really chicken scratch breakdowns. I will write a plot, and usually maybe 5 pages for a 25-page story or so, and then I will draw the comic. If you looked at it, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell what you're looking at. But I just need to see if it's going to work visually, and then I write my script based on my breakdowns. The artist will never see what I sketched unless I have to show him a panel because I can't describe it. But generally, when I hand that script to the artist, I've already drawn it. So I know it's going to work. And I actually have to do it pretty quickly after I do the sketches, because a couple of days later, I can't even tell what I'm looking at.
No.
That's how rough it is.
Yeah.
And I just had the experience of not being able to get back to my scratches for about 2 weeks. And there was one page where I looked at it. It's like, what the hell am I looking at here? I know I had an idea. I know I knew what I was doing at the time. And I had to reimagine that page because I had no idea what I was looking at. And I don't know if what I ended up with was what I first thought of, but it worked okay.
Have you seen those fantastic photostats for Jack Kirby's layouts for those early Strange Tale Nick Furies? Where he just basically, it's just basically a lesson in composition, and he's got 4 figures and you can't tell who they are, and he just writes Fury over the top and Sitwell over the other one, whoever it is, and they're absolutely brilliant. I'd love to see a book, but we probably can't do it now. They probably didn't take photocopies of them all, but I'd love to see a book of that just to see where Jack's head was and where he was putting things.
That's comics right there. That is the essence of comics is right there, because a good artist can take that and finish it, and it's going to look like his product, the inker, if the inker is the same as the penciler, but those layouts are the essence of graphic storytelling.
Yeah.
And Jack was so good at
that.
Well,
I'd love to see the John Severin Shield layouts, because Kirby did the layouts on those. 1, 3, 6, and 7, 8, and 9. I think he did. I'd just love to see the actual layouts, because I read that John Severin, Kirby would actually do those layouts on the board, and those boards would be sent to the artist, in this case John Severin. And I read that John Severin actually rubbed them out instead of just drawing over it and then inking it. He actually,
by that point, Severin had about 10, 15 years in the business.
Well, I was going to say, but somebody like John Severin, you're not going to argue with him, are you? Because he knows what he's doing,
Exactly. I'm sure he was just getting his idea on paper.
Yeah. Getting back to Stan Lee's skills as an editor, he realized what Jack had. Yeah. And that's why he had Jack either drawing every comic or laying it out for other artists. And at a certain point in 1964 or so, maybe early into 65, Jack was laying out, I don't know, 2 or 3 comics that he wasn't drawing, because Stan recognized when Stan said draw like Jack Kirby, he did not mean the renderings. He meant the layouts.
Mm-hmm. The dynamics.
Yeah.
That Kirby brought to the FF. You can see it. Even if you look at Kirby's Challengers work, you can see a huge change in dynamics once he was given. And it all came down to the way he was working too, because Kirby got more of a free hand working under Marvel, and he had so much experience already. Yeah. That was part of the genius of Lee working as the editor up at Marvel, is he pulled in people that were so seasoned professionals most of the time that they knew what they were doing. If they didn't, or if Lee didn't think that they did, then he had Kirby do the layouts to show them what a Marvel story is going to look like.
Yeah.
But you had, people like even Gene Colan, when he found him, when he brought him into Marvel, had so much experience already in comics that they would just get a bare bones script if they were lucky. Most of the time it was a phone call. What do you want to draw? Okay, go ahead and draw that. And they would the artist would turn in a completed story, because they already had the structure in their head.
I've had so many different styles of script given to me. I've had very descriptive scripts where each panel is very, very descriptive, where people want to be standing, the expression, all kinds of stuff, even down to the camera angle. And then I've had the complete opposite, where this happens on a page, like the Stan Lee method. This happens on a page, off you go. I prefer this happens on a page. I prefer the Stan Lee method. But most often I get somewhere in between the two, where they loosely say, this is roughly what I want on each panel. But it's down to you how that comes out, and if you need extra panels or not. So the most frustrating thing, and often happens with more naive writers, is asking too much of every panel. So you have a crowd of people, and the person at the front of the crowd has an expression on their face, and they're looking down the street away from you. It's like, right, well, do you want a crowd of people, or do you want me to focus on the expression of the person at the front of the crowd? And also, if they're looking down the street, I can't see their face. Yeah. So there's just, and by the way, the person that they're talking to is to the left of them, but they're going to talk first, which is exactly what Charles was saying about having people in the appropriate position in a panel for the script to be able to hit the right person.
I hate to see the stems of balloons crossing each other.
Yes, no, that's a no-no. That's a no-no.
So I've seen it quite a few times.
Yeah. So this is a Batman page, and it's made from a very similar process that I've just said. So I get a rough number of panels. If I want to put an extra panel in, the editor just says, yeah, that's fine, no problem, whatever makes the story work. I don't have the names down on here, but it just suddenly cropped up in my head with what Glenn was saying about is that often I'll just put in forms and put it down names.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just got B for Batman or R for Robin or whatever, and just pop it into the page. It's exactly like this. This is a bit more detailed, but this kind of thing, and then you just pop on names, and it means that you can pop together your layout and how the panels work with each
composition,
other. Composition, yeah. So that went from there through a small process of some detailing into the pencils.
Right.
Okay.
And then that's when that went off for inks.
Yeah.
Reminds me a little bit of the approach in the animated stuff that DC published in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
A simpler approach.
Yeah, it's got that because the market is a juvenile market, and so we don't want it to be too dark. But at the same time, you don't want to talk down to your viewers, to your readers, no matter how young they are. You should never talk down to them. The guy that's editing, Jason Quinn, is a master at that, because we did that with Doctor Who Adventures as well.
Talking down to people.
not talking down to people. At respecting the reader, as it were, no matter what the age. Yeah. And that's something that's very important to me. I mean, obviously, I've run off on my indie comics career, and things are going well for me. I'm in my second book, and the second book has been delayed because there are all kinds of personal problems which I'm not going to get involved in, but also there were professional issues. I had to get on and make money because of some of the personal issues. Again, I'm not going to get involved with that, but it meant that my book has been late. But one of the things that did crop up was this opportunity to draw Batman, and it wasn't just about drawing Batman. It was about the thing that I'm about, and that's drawing comics for all ages.
How many pages are those Batman stories?
They're 10 pages for each issue. Yeah. So, and they're an encapsulated story as well. So they don't run on each issue. And so the idea is, for me, the big thing is drawing for that age group from 5 to 15 or whatever it is, because that's when comics captured me. Yeah. That was when I learned to read. That's when I learned to move forward with, into novels and all kinds of literature, because I'd read comics and because they didn't talk down to me.
There aren't a whole lot of self-contained 10-page stories being published these days.
Well,
I wish there were more.
If you go back to the Tales to Astonish, way back, and Tales of Suspense and those things, and I know the reasons were to get more characters out there, but it just shows you how professional and how brilliant these guys were, because in Strange Tales wasn't Nick Fury 12 pages and Doctor Strange 10, and then Doctor Strange was 12, and then Nick Fury was 10, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was half and half, wasn't it?
Yeah. It shows you the genius of these guys, that they could tell. I mean, basically the 20-page, bigger books give you longer to introduce and flesh out and all that. But it just shows you how good these guys were, putting a story into 10 or 12 pages like that.
Yeah.
Condense it,
Yeah, we're fortunate because everybody knows who Batman is. So you don't have to, some of the lore you don't have to get involved with. But it's just great to have that encapsulated story. Batman goes on an adventure. Batman gets captured. Robin helps him out. Batgirl's there. She's helping out this week, or this month, whatever it is. And they're really, I do hope they get the opportunity to compile them as well and put them out as maybe a trade paperback. Because that would be a great thing for kids to have as well. It'd be that youth market.
They would be crazy not to.
Yeah. So,
and here you've done about 100 pages. None of them have been printed anywhere, right?
No, I mean I'm on issue 5 now, and issue 1 is about to be published, or is about to hit the street. So
what is the title?
50 pages.
What is the title of the publication?
It's Hero Time Batman. Hero Time presents Batman.
Okay.
But I think the only place you can actually see it is on the Brazil Panini website at the moment. Yeah. So it's gonna have some time to filter through.
That title might change from country to country anyway.
It probably will, to be honest.
It's great. You've got a 10-page story that people can plug in.
Yeah.
Almost anywhere. So
and like I say, it's an activity book. I'm big into those. I think they're great for kids, and also telling stories to kids via comics. That's my thing. So I felt it was worthwhile being able to hold back my own book a little bit because it isn't just Batman, which is obviously a bucket list item for any comic strip artist. It's the fact that it's for kids. It's the fact that it's that market. That's the market that I've.
And there's also an ambition thing in there, especially from my point of view, that you've achieved now, because those books will be printed in different languages. And how good will that be in your archive?
I mean, I couldn't
have those different editions in different languages. That's fantastic.
Exactly. I couldn't say no. I mean, Panini, but Jason approached me late last year. And it's like, he said, I've got this thing for you. Do you fancy doing this? It's like, well, I'll say yes now, and we'll talk about the terms afterwards.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of those opportunities you can't say no to. Mm-hmm. And I've been working on Doctor Who as well at the same time, because they needed help. They needed someone to come in. But this issue that I'm about to draw is the last one for me now. So that I'll be able to get back on with my book, because they've got a new doctor coming in. They want a new creative vision, as it were, for the magazine. So
I was going to ask about that. Yeah,
they're getting another team to do the strip, and that's fine. That's the way it works. Often they have different teams. I was actually surprised that I stayed on it for as long as I did. I thought I'd maybe be on it for like 5 or 6 issues.
But you would draw the new one if they asked you, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to eat. But it has come at a very opportune moment for me, because I do want to finish my book and I do want to get it out there. So
are you penciling, inking, and coloring the Batman?
I'm penciling and inking. I've had a colorist on it for the last 4 issues. I've spoken to another colorist who's just done the cover for issue 5, but I may well end up coloring it myself, because now that I don't have to do. Now I don't have to do Doctor Who magazine.
When you're doing just penciling and inking, how many a page? How long does it take to produce a page? Let's put it that way.
Doctor Who, I can do 2 pages a day, pencils.
Pencils?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Batman, I tend to put a little bit more into it. There's a little bit more detail. So that's maybe 1.5 pages a day, pencils. Inking, I can generally ink 2 pages a day.
Yeah, that's actually, these days, that's pretty fast. There's not a lot of artists, professional or otherwise, that can work at that pace today.
Yeah, I think I'm fairly fast. I mean, I'm producing so it's 11 on average over the last 10 months plus other work. I've been doing layouts for other people, and I've obviously been slowly getting on with my own book as well. I've been producing around 11 or 12 pages penciled and inked every month.
And how many ideally, how many hours a day would you like to be doing that?
Ideally, about 4. I like a little nap in the afternoon.
And what does reality look like?
Reality looks like I get up anywhere between 7 and 8, more often 7, and I'm at the board within half an hour. I get up, get washed, get a breakfast, get a cup of coffee, sit down at the board. So I'm normally working by 8, maybe 8:30. And I tend to work through until around 6:30, 7. So it's a fairly long day.
Yeah.
On a Monday, I stop off early because I go and teach karate on a Monday evening to kids. But my training sessions are later on Wednesdays and Tuesdays, so I can carry on working until 6:30 or so.
So not to undermine your input, Russ. just think how good Jack Kirby was when he was doing 5, 6, 7 pages a day.
Yeah. Damn it!
I know he was doing layouts and covers.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. I don't know how he could do it.
Could you imagine if you had to sit down and you had to do that 21 pages, including the cover, a Fantastic Four, in 5 working days?
Well, I tell you what, it'd be a lot simpler. I'd be drawing a lot simpler, and I wouldn't be going back. I mean, I think what it is a testament to his natural ability.
Yes,
because
not just that, but the skill level that he was at that point. Yeah, exactly. Even at that point was tremendous. So a lot of that was instinct. Yeah. A lot of that was already in the back of his head before he even put it on the paper.
He did it of Captain America. was it 112 Captain America, the fill-in issue he did when Steranko was drawing it, and he did that over a weekend.
Yeah,
it's just incredible.
I mean, he did the Iron Man story,
it's beautiful.
He did the Iron Man story as well when Gene Colan was taken out, wasn't it? After page 3.
That's the thing. You know, I reckon, I could probably do 22 pages in a week. Yeah,
he did it.
No
Avengers,
but it doesn't mean that I'd be proud of it.
He did Avengers 1 in a real short period of time too, because they needed that in time for a deadline. Yeah,
I don't know whether you know this or not, but when he did that would it be Tales of Suspense Iron Man story that Gene Colan was ill? If you not only did the remaining 7 pages, he also threw in the next story of 12 pages with it. So he must have said to Stan, "I need another issue to continue the story." So he didn't. So Stan Lee wanted 7 pages by this afternoon, and he got the 7 pages, and he got another 12 as well. That's how fast he was. That's how good he was.
It is amazing. It's hard to conceive just how he did that. You know, sitting at the board drawing.
Ross Kirby said to me that it was like she used to watch him, and it was like he could see it on the board. It was like he was just tracing over on the board, and he'd just pick up that page and put it down and get the next blank page. Just his hand wouldn't stop. He'd just keep drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. It must have been. I just wish that I've had documentaries in those days and filmed in. Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
Well, there's so much of the history and stuff like that's been lost.
It's
nobody knew at the time it was going to be a big thing.
Of course, it's like that Beatles film that just came out, isn't it? But what did that guy have? He had 52 hours, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the guy who's going to buy every second of that. If they put it, don't bother editing it. Just I want to see the outtake bits. Just put the whole thing. I want to see. He's got it down to 4 hours out of 52. What is it?
No. It was a lot longer than that. It was a lot.
Right,
I sat through the entire thing.
Right. Okay.
So it was amazing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was crazy because you got to see how everybody's creative juices.
So could you imagine?
Together.
I mean, I'm sure the 4 of us here wouldn't find this boring at all, because I know I wouldn't. A camera in 1965 behind Jack Kirby's head, having just drawing FF, Cap, and Hulk and whatever he was doing. I could sit and watch that all day.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the month that he did that fill-in on Iron Man.
Yeah.
This is what else he did that month. He drew Fantastic Four number 53, which I contend is the best drawn FF that he did.
Is that Inhumans at that point?
No, that's the second part of the Black Panther.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so
all
he
right.
drew that story and that cover. He drew the cover of Avengers number 30. He drew Thor 130 and the cover. He drew Tales of Suspense, the cover and the Captain America story. And then the Iron Man fill-in was in Tales to Astonish, 82. So he didn't do the cover there, but he did the fill-in on this. It was actually the Submariner story where he fights Iron Man.
That's right. Yeah.
He did all of that. Oh, and Strange Tales 147. Let's see what he did on that. The Nick Fury story. Did he do the layouts on that? No. So, but yeah, he sloughed off that month. He didn't do that one. But that's just an unbelievable.
That's the cover for 53.
Unbelievable output.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did the cover on that one. Right, he did the cover. He did the cover on the Strange Tales. Yeah.
What month was that, Charles?
This was on sale in May of '66.
Right.
Just crazy,
so he was
crazy good.
So he was drawing. Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? So he was drawing that at the end of '65, because it's 6 months ahead.
Yeah, the website I use for this, I don't know if you've ever been to this website. It's called Mike's Amazing World, and he has a feature called the Newsstand, and so you can look at what was on sale from every publisher or just an individual publisher in a certain month of a certain year, or you can select by cover date. Mike'sAmazingWorld.com. So
if you get this book, I don't know whether you can see it or not. Can you see that?
Just looks like a black book here.
Yeah.
There's a little imprint in there.
Yeah.
Jack Kirby. It lists all his work.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's got it all in there, everything.
Yeah. The newsstand on Mike's Amazing shows you the covers. so you can. It's like you're looking at the newsstand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you saw that how thick that book was. That was a listing of all of everything that Jack had done. It's just that volume of work is unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't remember what year it was. Was it 63? He broke his own record of, I don't know, 1,000 pages. There's some ridiculous amount of work in one year.
Because in 63 he was drawing Kid Colt and things like that, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
So all the things that we never talk about, Kid Colt or Outlaw Kid or whatever it's called, we never talk
so
about
much of that stuff you never, not just see, you don't hear anybody mention that whole era of productivity,
and all linked mainly by Dick Ayers as well, all that stuff.
Yeah, here it is. The most Kirby Jack pages in Marvel history. Let's see how many pages we're talking about.
Was it 110 in 1 month he drew?
Good God.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? Yeah.
I think it was 110 or 111 in 1 month.
But again, we're looking at 20 years of experience in the field at that point.
Yeah,
No, but don't forget, he was
got
still
that muscle memory down.
Yeah, but he was still doing that with Captain America. He might not have been drawing so many pages, but in 1941, when he was doing Boy Commandos and all those kind of stuff, he was doing.
He drew 20. He produced over 20,000 comic book pages in his career.
Yeah,
it's a new description of prolific, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's obscene almost, isn't it?
It is obscene. I can't imagine being able to do that. I mean, I think I'm working roughly around 250, 300 a year.
Which is great these days.
And the other thing is, you see, the other thing is, not only was he putting out that amount of pages, he was also creating the characters and the stories within it as well.
He was he was plotting everything.
And he had so many throwaway things like that guy. I'm always intrigued by that Mantis guy in New Gods. I think he's only in twice. I think he's in about a total of 5 panels in Mantis.
Well, he didn't get to use Mantis and Bug and those characters the way that he wanted to, because he was still setting the stage at the point that they canceled those books.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that it's almost like when you read what was published, it's like a throwaway character. Yeah, and these fantastic things coming in. And think, wow, that's a good concept, and then you don't see it again.
Yeah,
and that was another part of Stan Lee's why he was so good, was he reined him in, didn't he? He didn't let him just go full whack like DC did at New Gods and all that stuff.
Well,
he needed some kind of editing.
I don't think that New Gods would be, or his Fourth World material would be nearly as good if he hadn't gone through those years with Stan. As you develop, you evolve as you go along, and the reason why a lot of those books are as crazy good as they are, you look at those Mr. Miracle pages and those New God pages, that is all bridled imagination let loose and turned up. He wanted to show everybody what he could do, and he did it. It's just boom, right in your face. You look at those Mr. Miracle covers, they're just incredible.
Yeah. And
he was probably working at the same pace that he was always. Well, just take a look at the Commandy 1 cover, which is really iconic. Just crazy good. The Statue of Liberty sitting there. That
I think he's been to see Charlton Heston when he did that one.
Yeah.
And he's working at breakneck speeds. He's doing at least 2 full issues a month, if not more, plus covers.
Yeah.
At that point, just incredible.
I guess you could forgive him for the occasional time, especially in FF, where he ran out of room. He forgot how many pages the story was supposed to be, and so he had to cram 2 pages worth of finale into 1 page. And you saw that occasionally, and Stan Lee had to kind of figure out how to describe the end of the story that we weren't actually seeing. It happened a couple of times.
Have you heard that story about Martin Goodman? This shows you what a great businessman Martin Goodman was. But if you don't know this story, you'll wince. Apparently, Kirby was drawing 10,000 pages a day like he was doing. And Martin Goodman went into Stan Lee's office, and there was all this pile of artwork, and it was all inventory artwork. And he said, "What's all this stuff here?" And he said, "Oh, it's Kirby. He just draws 50,000 pages a week." He said, "But this is the genius of the business acumen of Martin Goodman." He didn't say, "Well, tell him to stop drawing so many." He said, "Give him less money for them." So he still produced 10,000 pages a week, but he got paid less.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Which is a great business move, isn't it?
Punishing success.
Right.
Yeah. No good deed goes unpunished, as we say.
We're not ignoring the chat on purpose. We're just talking, folks. So thanks a lot, Black Manic. Arts, thanks for listening from Canada. Brian K. Morris is in the house. Says, good morning, gentlemen. It's good to see somebody else up at this ungodly hour, aside from you Brits, of course. Brian, I'd love to have you on this early in the morning sometime to talk about writing. I'd love to do a writing show, just to talk about that subject specifically. Brian also says, replacing you on Doctor Who? Can't you just regenerate and keep doing the strip?
No, I like it here. I may be back at some point. They do in, you know, like take teams and put them back on strips at later dates. And they've expressed their wish to maybe get me back at some point. But
well, from what I've read of what Davies plans to do with the property, you might have more work than you know how to deal with, especially if what he plans on doing gets any type of popularity rolling at all.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I for instance, I've drawn Doctor Who in for Panini, but I've never drawn Doctor Who for Titan.
Okay.
And I've never even been approached. I've never even, you know, spoken to. I submitted to Titan a couple of times, but never got anywhere more than an email. So you know, it does. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it, to be perfectly honest. You know, I'm talking about you know, getting jobs in something that we were talking about earlier, saying you don't have to be the best artist, you just have to you just have to be professional and be able to tell stories and all the rest of it. You also need to network and be lucky. You need to you do need that. Unfortunately, you need to get out there, show your work, get to talk to people, not just on YouTube, but real people in the real world, IRL or whatever it is, in real life. And you know, that's the way I've got a lot of my work is by turning up, as it were, and making sure that people are impressed by the finished product.
That's a really good point. The difference between having the phone ring and picking up the phone and marketing yourself. I've been doing this for 35 years, and nothing that I have that's ever been published that I've written was something that I didn't promote. It was something. It was not. I've had calls where people were interested in me doing something for them, and it's never quite worked out. So virtually nothing that has been where I've been approached has ever come to fruition. Virtually everything I've ever done was me saying, this is what I want to do, and reaching out to various people. So that's another aspect of time.
The thing I came up with in the 90s, Russell know this, you know, Postman Pat. I used to draw the Postman Pat strip in the 90s. Now, I got that job because when I was working freelance in that time, I was doing mostly brochure design and things like that, because I design Comics Unlimited, and I do a lot of things. And I got the gig at Egmont in Manchester, doing brochures and doing what you call finished artwork, you know, doing all that kind of thing. And what I used to do was to always take my folder along and show whoever was giving me a piece of work what else I could do. So they didn't know I could draw. So when I showed them my drawings of other stuff, I got Postman Pat to draw. So like you say, you've got to promote yourself. You've got to go in there. I didn't just go in there to pick up a brochure. I went in there to get everything they could throw at me, because I can do most things.
I met Jason over at Panini, and then his brother Tim, who used to edit for Marvel, through a job that I did for someone in America while Jason was living in Spain. And we did this job together. I got very little out of it. I'm not even sure it got published properly, but we got to know each other. And then he went off and he was head of content for Campfire graphic novels, and then came back to Panini. And because we'd had a relationship and he trusted what I could do, because I turned up, like answering the phone.
Yeah.
I turned up, you know, I put the work in on time. It got done. He approached me, and I did some work with him, and then he approached me, and I got the gig for Doctor Who. And then while I was doing Doctor Who, they asked me in to talk to them about doing some editorial work, believe it or not, for Draw the Marvel Way. Okay. And they actually had Michael Collins doing the tutorials, but Michael Collins obviously didn't have enough time to do all of it. So after I'd done the editorial stuff for them, which was like lists and ideas on tutorials and that kind of stuff, they asked me to do the other work. And in the end, I actually did the majority of the work on the book. I did the lion's share of that book with Mike and the colorist, James. And so by being able to be there, to make yourself available to do other things, it meant that I got that work. And because of all that work, because of all that I've done with them, I became a trusted source.
Right.
So not just Jason, but Alan over there as well, who's in charge. They appreciate that I get the job done, and that I turn up. Okay, I answer the phone, I get the job done.
Well, when I went down to Egmont and I was doing the brochure work, and then I got the Postman Pat gig. Egmont moved to London, and the editor guy that I worked with there, he stayed up here in the north, and he created his own business called Newsstand. And he and I wrote, and I designed a magazine called Undercover. And then we moved into an area of, we used to produce the official Coronation Street magazine. Right. I designed and wrote half of that, co-wrote that. And then 10 years after that, this guy rang me up again, and we did Crikey together. And then he left and I took over Crikey. But what was saying about the skills, when I was drawing Postman Pat, I was saying, shouldn't he do this? And so they wanted me to write then, and that's how the guys knew I could write as well. So just like Charles said, to get back to the original what he said, you need to promote yourself, you need to push people, you need to show people what you can do, because nobody's going to suddenly say to you, oh, can you drive Formula One racing cars? Oh yeah, I'm really good at that, you know.
No, so like I say, the only reason I got the phone calls, the only reason I got the emails and the offers was because I turned up prior to that. It didn't just come out of the blue. You had to set that up. You had to be there. You had to show your experience, show your trustworthiness, show your professionalism.
Yeah, and also
and that takes time to build.
I never let anybody down on a deadline either. So they would ring me up at 4 o'clock in the evening to go down to get a job to do for the next morning, and I never let them down. So you get that kind of professionalism, that kind of reputation.
Yeah, and that seems to be harder to find these days.
Because on the sorry, let me just finish this, Charles. Then with the Undercover magazine that we wrote, it was initially 32 pages bi-monthly, and with the feedback we had before the first one was published, the guy I worked with rang me and he said, "How far are you finished?" And I said, "I'm just doing the last 2 pages." He said, "Well, we changed it." So I said, "Okay, what is it now?" And he said, 64 pages monthly. So it was twice as much. Yeah. Right. And we did it. So we had to go and write a load of new articles and stuff, and then redesign the magazine, and we got it out.
Nice problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did you run Undercover?
It only went to 6 issues.
Okay.
When you get your copies, you'll see why.
I just posted something about a Filipino comic that I did, which is being turned into a motion animation. You know, they take the comic and do a motion thing with it,
like a motion comic.
Yeah, for TV in the Philippines.
Cool.
And the way I got that assignment, this was a graphic novel about a female character that was co-created by me and the publisher. So I was at the New York Comic Con 5 or 6 years ago, and I see a Filipino artist that I had worked with but never spoken to and never met. It was through an agency. And I see him at this table with some other Filipino artists, and I said, "Hi, you drew a graphic novel for me, and well, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, we're promoting this new line of comics." this Filipino publisher. So the Filipino publisher sent these people all the way to New York Comic Con. Mm-hmm. So I said, do you have any assignments? And he said, well, when we get back to the hotel room tonight, we'll ring up the Philippines and find out. Now, the answer the next morning was very interesting because, okay, I've got some credits, but on a scale of 1 to 100, as far as notoriety, famousness, popularity, I'm maybe a 9 on a scale of 1 to 100, right? So the reaction of the Filipino publisher was, he wants to work with us? And I thought, well, yeah, I'll work for anybody whose check clears,
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. So that's how I got the assignment, by just asking for it. And the publisher gave me a basic concept for this character. So I had to immerse myself in Filipino, I guess you'd call it tribal culture. These tribes that live on the shore and do this deep sea spearfishing. Mm-hmm. These guys dive into the water, and they'll be down there for minutes at a time, spearfishing, with no diving equipment, right. Just a spear. And so this was the background for this the female character who gains these powers. She meets this sea goddess, and she becomes a sea goddess herself. So this is the character I co-created, but that's how I got the assignment, by meeting somebody by chance at a convention and just asking for the assignment. And I tried to negotiate for a percentage of any exploitation rights. Couldn't do that. So when I saw there was a TV show being made, I thought, great, I can now say I was involved in a TV show. I'm not getting a dime from it, but I knew that going in. I knew that I was not going to get any money. Initially, there was supposed to be a live action movie, and I thought, fantastic. Let's say there's a live action movie, it becomes very popular, and I don't get anything except bragging rights. That's fine with me. I got paid for the graphic novel, and I can say I was involved in whatever exploitation comes of it. Yeah. But
there's a lot of conversation, especially with younger or more naive, should I say, rather than younger, because it could be any age, but more naive creators about being ripped off, not doing things for money. Right. And certainly you shouldn't go around saying, I'll answer an advert where they say, this will help you promote yourself if you just do some work for us. No, that's a scam. Okay. Yeah. But going into any project with your eyes open, you're in control. If you know from the outset and think, I'm not likely to get much out of this, but this is going to help me in other ways, that's completely different to somebody taking advantage of you. Go in with your eyes open, which is much what we were talking about earlier.
It was also, believe it or not, the first superhero comic that I ever wrote.
Wow.
In 35 years, never wrote a superhero comic. How is that possible?
Yeah, but you've written a lot of heroic fiction.
Oh, absolutely. All of it's been heroic fiction, but none of it an actual superhero with quote-unquote powers. So I thought, okay, well, that's another thing that I can say that I finally have done. And being involved with a publisher in the Philippines was kind of cool because I didn't realize there's a lot going on down there.
Oh yeah. Russ, I know you have to take off.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to go. Unfortunately, sorry to cut out so early.
Make sure you tell everybody how to get a hold of you.
You can get hold of me at russleach.com. There you go. It's nice and simple. All my links are there to my books, to my YouTube channel, Comic Book Black Belt, to Instagram and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. Not that it really makes much sense anymore, but it's all there. And you can go find out that my book, book 2 of Only Death Can Save Us. This is the first book. You can still pick up a copy of this. It's over on Indiegogo. And I think you can pick up things like this in different engine from Marcosia, or if you like a bit of horror, Fenton's Green. So there's plenty of stuff over there. Go over to russleach.com. All my links are there, and you can find out everything from that point.
Sweet. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hope you come back in future episodes. I really want to pick your brain on composition, and
if I just show you one last thing.
Absolutely.
Here we go. So I've got another camera set up that I was thinking at some point maybe we could go through. Maybe we could go through some books.
Nope.
And you're frozen.
What a time to freeze.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have that Silver Surfer book. It's beautiful.
Man, you just make me jealous.
Here we go. Am I back?
Oh, yes, you're back.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. This is a beautiful, beautiful book, and I've got several of these artisan books. This is a piece of artwork from Only Death Can Save Us book 2. So you can see where some of the inspiration is coming from. Oh, yeah. I've got a rostrum camera set up here, and at some point I think it might be quite cool. I quite like cartoonist kayfabe. I like the channel. I don't necessarily agree with everything they say about the books, but I do love the fact that they look into them and they interrogate them and what have you. So maybe we can do a little bit more of that in the future.
I would like that very much. And one thing that bothers me about them is how many things they get wrong that are so easy to look up. I don't understand it because they're very knowledgeable and very interested in this stuff. But I find myself watching their stuff and shaking my head and going, "No, that's not right. No, that's so easy to look up, and you got that wrong."
Yeah,
there's a number of channels up on YouTube that do the exact same thing, where they think they know the history, and here it is, and it's like that's not how that worked at all, dude.
Not even close.
But I think from my perspective, I'm not as worried about the history. I mean, that's certainly something for you guys to know more about than me. What I am really interested in is the nuts and bolts of how these images are made and how they come across on the page and their lineages, as it were. That's the stuff that interests me. So like I say, the rostrum camera's there if we want to do those kind of things and pop that kind of stuff up.
I think that's a great idea.
Yes, that's exactly what I want for this program.
We can interrogate some printed books. We can interrogate some artisan books and just take a good look. I've got a couple of cracking, but I've got the Brian Boland art edition, the massive one, and the John Buscema one as well. So definitely something we can look at in the future.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm off. It's really great to see you again, Charles.
Russ, thanks again. Thanks again for stopping by.
I'll see you again soon. Cheers.
Right. See ya.
Once again, that's Russ Leach. So if you haven't picked up Only Death Can Save Us, do that. So more than worth the price of admission. Jump back into the chat. Brian says good comments about picking up the phone. I have done a lot of info anthology assignments because other people didn't finish their stories or wouldn't even answer their emails. But I always pick up the phone and I always make deadlines. So I'm busier than most of my contemporaries. Maybe not better paid.
Yeah, well, you've got to get it done, haven't you? You've got to
getting it done.
You've got to set yourself the discipline of it.
Yeah,
you've got to do this.
It's so easy to blow a deadline too.
Yeah,
you get swamped with work or have other things come up in the way.
Inspires, doesn't it? The one thing I learned is that you never turn a job down. What you do is accept the job and get all the finance cleared, and then panic. But you never say no.
Well, I found the best thing with a publisher because I did a lot of freelancing work is to be honest and say I can turn that around, but I'm not going to be able to hit your date. I can hit it 2 days later, but I'm
the downside of
be
that.
Realistic.
Yeah, the downside is I think I've told you this story before. Many years ago, I did a guy rang me up to have this job done for in the morning, and I said, "Well, look, I'm going to have to work all night, and I want double time." He said, "Whatever it takes." Mm-hmm. And to me, that was a verbal contract because I couldn't be going around to see him to get a contract. There wasn't time. Yeah. So I did the job, took it in. He thought it was great. And then 3 months later, he still hadn't paid me. He was on a 90-day pay, didn't pay me. And then 6 months later, another 3 months later, I had to go and see him to get paid. and he didn't remember agreeing to the terms.
Oh, wow.
So he didn't. Wow. He said, "I don't believe you. You're pulling a fast one." I said, "Well, give me what you think you owe me." So he gave me the check, and I said, "Don't ring me again."
Yeah.
Because he proved to me what he was. That's the downside of it. But most
I generally pay my artists within 24 hours.
Yeah, a completion.
Yeah, usually it's within 5 minutes, but it's generally no longer than 24 hours.
Thanks to electronic transfers.
I hate stories like that. Like that kind of stuff makes you
another guy
homicidal.
Yeah, another guy I did a lot of work for couldn't understand, and he I don't know what it was. He didn't like me, but he knew I could do the work, so that was fair enough. I didn't particularly like him, but we got the job done. And he would always complain when I went in and dropped the last job off him to get the check. He would always complain about effing freelancers getting paid so much, and I said, look.
You pay what you agree.
You paid what the agreement was, and if you paid me on time and didn't delay it another month, it wouldn't be so much when you got around to doing it. Because he would not pay me for a job for 3 months because I don't know why he hadn't been paid or whatever. But that's not the point, is it?
No.
It's not my fault. He's not been paid.
Yeah.
He's my he's my problem, not paying me. It's not for me to chase the guy to pay him so he can pay me, But that's the downside of it. But like I say, most of the time people are okay.
Don't remember the terms. Sure, right? Says.
Yeah.
Well, that might be true, but that's not an excuse.
No.
I mean, it's your job to remember what you said, and you might legitimately not remember, but that's not right.
No,
that's right.
You got to know what you agreed to.
I mean, it wasn't as if I'd sort of tried to rip him off before anyway. Everything was agreed, everything was paid, everything was fine. But that one job, because it was such an amount, because it was double time, he forgot that one.
So. Ojo said it's got to pop up. I have to do some real work. Fascinating conversation. I'll be listening from now on. We appreciate you, Hojo. We really do. Thanks to everybody for listening. Deeply appreciate all the ears, especially on this first program. Tell your friends that we're here. We're here to answer your questions. If you have a problem about the nuts and bolts, about the business or doing the artwork or anything like that, we've got enough people here to provide an answer to you with enough experience.
That's right.
To give you a logical
talent
answer.
Is not enough. The nuts and bolts is what's going to get you a career. So
true.
Yeah.
That and tenacity and a little bit of foolhardiness, probably.
And a lot of fortune.
So, sometimes luck, because I have saved myself a lot of heartache just by luck.
Mm-hmm.
Where you want to get into a publisher, or you like what they're doing, or you want to do a job, then you go and you solicit for the job, and the guy, brushes you off or whatever, and then boom, something happens to the company and they're out of business. So I can't tell you that's happened to me at least a half a dozen times. But on the other side of the coin, I've gotten involved with guys that have, they'll, even with a contract, they won't honor. So you do an amount of work for them, and you just never get a check, or you never get any other communication.
Let me tell you, when I was doing Undercover, it did so well, and I'm not being sarcastic, that I had a royalty on that book, and my royalty, even though it was only 6 issues for reasons I won't go into here, my royalty check was bigger than my paycheck for that book.
Yeah,
that's how well it was doing.
Right.
But we went into other things. But doing the Coronation Street book was great. You know Coronation Street, don't you? The soap.
Oh yeah. No, I told you I used to watch it on the Canadian Broadcast Company.
Yeah,
they used to run all the week's episodes on Sunday morning. I'd sit there forever and just.
It's the longest.
At the point where I was recording it.
It's the world's longest soap. It's still going. It's 63 years or something, 62 years. But yeah, it was great working on that, because I got to meet a lot of the stars on it, that kind of thing. And it got to be like, I got quite famous in the way that people would ask me what was going to happen, because we knew what was going to happen. We were told, because we had to write a next week thing 2 months ahead. You understand what I mean? So they had to tell us what the story arcs were, and people say, "What's going to happen with this? And what's going to happen with this?" And I was sworn to secrecy. You know, it was an amazing thing. It was great.
Did you ever torment people? Well, you know the Klats.
No. I didn't go anywhere near any of that.
Have to wait and see.
But there's a few times I would have liked to say to them, "Never mind that. Just wait till you see what happens about them and their story. I haven't even started yet." You know. So that was really good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. We just got done. Actually, not we. The wife actually got done watching the entire run of Dark Shadows because it's available. Dark Shadows is a 1960s, ran from 67, I think, to 71, 72. It was a supernatural soap opera that they ran in the afternoons here for a half an hour on ABC.
Right. Now, it didn't start as a supernatural soap opera.
No, it was a gothic romance soap opera. It took place up in Maine, a little town called Collinsport that was a shipping, shipping town.
We used to get Bewitched and all that sort of stuff, the Munsters and all that. But I think the first soap we ever got that I remember was Peyton Place. I didn't watch it. My mum used to watch that.
Yeah, this was after great. Peyton Place.
Peyton Place, yeah. Ryan O'Neal and all those people were in it, weren't they? And it was quite it was like Dallas, wasn't it? It was that sort of compulsive viewing, really.
There's nothing more grueling than a soap opera schedule.
Yeah,
I mean, as an actor or a writer, because you always have to stay ahead and you have to stay on top of stuff. If you ever watch the movie Tootsie, that's just a small taste of what these people had to or still go through, because there's still soaps on. Yeah, I'm sure Coronation Street was the same way. Everything was hurry up, hit your mark, say the line. Let's get going over to the next set. We got to go.
I guess a lot of the American soaps, the daytime stuff, must have been live, because I didn't watch them, but I remember flipping through in the middle of the day and watching one, and this woman, she's dressed very like for a cocktail party, whatever, evening wear, and she walks in the door and she's wearing this giant necklace thing, and it just fell off her. just hit the floor, and she didn't miss a beat. She just and I thought, this must be live, because they would never send that out. I mean, it's just they would.
You'd be amazed.
They would have to retake that. I mean, it was just
not necessarily.
Not really.
No, and the whole thing came down to that actor being a professional.
Yeah,
they hit that mark. They ignored the fact that that whole necklace just flopped off her while she's still acting. Let's go. Let's get that camera rolling. Because they had to do a certain amount of film at a certain amount of time in order to get it cut, in order to get it in the can, in order to get it rolling. Yeah. So that's part of the fun with watching Dark Shadows, because they end up bringing in vampires and a Dracula, or the main guy. The women at the time found him incredibly attractive. I don't think he looks good at all, but that's just me. But they had so many. When you're watching it, you see stone walls on the set move back and forth. They're not, exactly like Doctor Who, where they were running on such a small budget. You see boom mics coming around. You see production people ducking in the background. They're trying to get out of the shot in time that don't quite make it.
Have you seen Wall Street, the Oliver Stone film?
A long time ago.
Yeah, well, there's a scene in that. I don't know whether they've edited out the DVD or the rerun.
They probably have.
Right. Well, on the cinema, when I went to see it on the cinema, there's a part where Michael Douglas, isn't it? Is it Gordon Gekko or something? The big business guy. He goes to his office, and it's nighttime in New York, and he goes to his office, and he walks into his office, and it's one of those buildings where the window goes to the floor, so the wall is just an open window, a window. And it's dark, but there's the lights from the other buildings, and you see him walk across like that to his desk, and then he puts the light and the close up of him putting the light on. But as he walks across, you can see Oliver Stone and all the cameramen. He's got the script, and there's a guy like this with the boom, and you can see the reflection, and you just be like, "Oh shit!" Well, I can't believe they didn't see it while they were editing. But then again, I suppose they couldn't reshoot. I don't know.
Could be. Nobody was looking.
But there was the woman on Coronation Street. She was called an actress. She was called Sue Lloyd.
Okay.
She was in a few things like The Persuaders and things like that. Quite big over here in that kind of program, TV program. And she was in Coronation Street for about 6 months. And there was a couple of this shows you how this is continuity. She was working behind the bar in the pub, in the Rovers Return pub. She was working behind the bar, and she was having this conversation with this guy, and she was going like that. She had like a necklace on, and she's going like this, and she's talking to him, and then she just sort of went away. And this happened for a few episodes because it shows you how they must shoot things. And she had a big S on it, for Sue, and her character's name was Bridget or something. You understand what I mean? And then she did an interview. So you could think, oh, maybe it's a mother's name as a character. But she was on an interview program, and she had this S on. She had the set, and it's obviously her, Sue. And she's called Bridget in the show. It's just fantastic.
Do you remember the first? I think it was the first Star Trek movie in the late '70s, where Shatner's wearing this red vest that had a big white collar, like a white blood. Lapel, right?
The blood. Yeah.
And the blood keeps moving around.
From
they do that in the shot.
Yeah. They do that in the Wild. Is it the Wild Ones? Not Elvis. Marlon Brando bike film in the 50s.
Yeah.
He's driving along with the girl on the back, and he's had a fight, and he's got a scar there like that. Then it cuts to the girl, and then his scar's going like that, and then his scar's down there like that. So you can I mean, how can you get that wrong?
Traveling scar. Yeah.
But another thing about film is in Casino, they did change this on the DVD, because when I got the DVD, I checked, obviously, but on the big screen on Casino, when they kill Joe Pesci, and they put him in the grave in Guatemala or wherever they are, when they beat him up and they kill him, they throw him in this grave, and he's like that, and he's dead, and he's like that. And then it cuts to the guy, and he spits on him or something. And when it cuts back, he's like that. It's after lunch, the shot that bit.
Yeah.
And they have people whose only job is
continuity.
Continuity. Yep.
Yeah. But you see it a lot, don't you? When you see them when they take a drink, you'll see them in a two shot, and they'll take a drink, and then they'll cut, and then he'll have the glass in the other hand, or there'll be more. He'll finish drinking.
Right.
There'll be more
all
liquid
of a sudden
in it.
There's more in it. Yeah.
There's more beer than there was when he picked it up. Yeah.
Rich Perry is laughing at us. Ha, old people.
Yeah, that's
all
right,
buddy.
There's
old
no
people
substitute.
up early.
There's no substitute for experience.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go. Exactly right.
Hey, where's your bell?
If it wasn't for us.
I have to move my coffee in order to get my bell this morning. There we are.
And where's Greta?
That's it. Oh, Greta's here too, and Greta's so poignant right now.
How dare you?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
She's my mascot.
She's doing well, isn't she? She's worth about $20 million or something.
Oh yeah.
Flying all over the place in her own private jet, and all sorts of environmentally hazardous stuff.
I saw her interviewed recently, and she does not look like a happy camper.
No.
She just has this look on her, and she's being interviewed and very in a friendly way. I mean, they weren't grilling her, they were promoting her, but she looked like she was being interrogated.
Yeah. Well, you got to keep. That's the. Anyway, don't get me started.
Yeah.
I tell everybody, I can't wait for her to actually learn real science, because it'll be amazing.
Not gonna happen.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It might end up smacking us all in the face here pretty quick. So.
Yeah.
Hojo says, I wanted to give my first son the middle name Barnabas. That's the lead vampire in Dark Shadows. Says my wife cut that down, shot that down quickly.
Yeah.
I can't.
I had when I
can't argue with her there.
Yeah, when I worked at Egmont, my name with the B in the middle of it there. Mm-hmm. They didn't know what the B was, and I used to go down and pick up a parcel with some work in it, and it would say Glenn Barabbas Fleming or Glenn Beelzebub Fleming, and I didn't tell them for years. They didn't get it. They didn't guess it, and it's so obvious, but they didn't guess it. And it was Glenn. They put Glenn Bernard Fleming and all these different names, and they never got it until I told them.
Do you know what
Barabbas and Beelzebub? Maybe they were trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
Do you know what Harry S. Truman's middle name was?
No.
Shirley.
He didn't have one.
Oh, right.
He gave himself a middle initial, And if you see it properly spelled out, there's no period. It's just Harry S. Truman.
Right.
And he in Key West, he had what was called the Southern White House, and we went there, and it's a tourist place. You get to see, and there's all this stuff up with his name.
Is that near Florida?
Yeah. And
Key West is the bottom part of Florida.
It's the southernmost point in the United States, and it's a big Navy base.
Yeah.
And so he had his Southern White House down there, and some of the signs will say Harry S. Truman, and some don't have the period, and some do. And it kind of surprised me that the what do you call it, the landmark plaque outside had the S with the period, and that they got that wrong, because he decided Harry Truman didn't sound dignified enough, so he gave himself a middle initial with no name.
It's not a whole lot of people born without a middle name, though.
I don't have a middle name.
Really?
I do not have a middle name, and the joke I like to make about that is that we were very poor growing up and couldn't afford one.
All right.
But it's not. None of that is true. I just don't have one.
I threw my middle initial in my email because somebody had already taken Randy Zimm. Don't ask me why. There's other Randy Zimmermans out there, but I had to throw my middle initial in there. So. That's the way it works.
We kind of gotten off of the process,
as most of our conversations always do.
But I think
welcome
we
to
were,
Sunday Funnies Part 2, folks.
I think we were a solid hour and a half with process.
I think we stayed on it very well, considering.
Yeah, for the most part.
And I hope everybody out there listening learned a little something, got some entertainment from it. If you have any suggestions, right there, randyjzimm@gmail.com. Don't be afraid to email me. Don't be afraid to contact me on Facebook. If there's a topic that you want us to discuss, you've seen, that we've got the experience, we'll definitely give you the answers.
Well, we'll make it up.
Don't be afraid.
We'll make it up.
We'll be like cartoon kayfabe. Just
I
I had to stop watching. I said this before. I had to stop watching cartoon kayfabe while I was working, because I never got any work done. They'd always pull out this cool stuff and open it and start talking about it.
And there's
there's sitting there watching the screen all day, and
there's another problem with that show, which they call the kayfabe effect. Do you know what that is?
No.
Anything they show immediately costs 5 times as much on eBay.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it.
They probably got a deal with eBay.
But a lot of stuff that they show it's already such classic material.
Yes.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have known about John Byrne continuing to do the X-Men if they hadn't done that episode. So Byrne has been doing fan pages that he's been posting, where he takes the X-Men at the point of Phoenix's death and continues on the way that he wanted to do the story. And that stuff is gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. And there are pirated print files out there for 2 huge volumes of this stuff, because he's got like 4 volumes. Each volume's over 200 pages a piece of this stuff that he's just gone and done on his own, posted up online, because he's so sick of the way modern comics are. And they are old style classic stuff, just like the Byrne Austin X-Men of.
How does it go with copyrights for that?
He just ignores them. They don't sue him. It's all fan service. He doesn't make any money off of it.
Right.
And then if they do come after him, the publicity would probably shame them into removing that's usually how these big corporations end up doing most of their business anyway, is they try to pull something and they get shamed out of it and they withdraw or they discontinue the lawsuit unless they really think there's a reason for them to pursue it.
Yeah.
So Bill Manilow is a major example of that, where he wasn't getting any kind of royalties. He created Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
And Bill had gotten hit by a bus. He's in a nursing home, an invalid, and his estate, his brother's been watching over him. And he's like, "You're Marvel, you're doing this big movie, and nobody's giving a crap about the guy that actually created this character." And they ended up boosting everybody's royalty rates, and they went in apologetically and showed him a copy of the movie once it was done, before it hit the theaters. All sorts of stuff for him, because literally shamed into do the same thing. Look at what Jack had to go through coming back to Kirby.
Yeah.
Look at all of the battle that Kirby had to go through. And then once he did get his artwork returned, it was a fraction of the stuff that he had done.
Yeah.
Because there was a time they were just giving it away to anybody that walked into the offices.
Or it was being stolen.
Or it was being, walked off with. And now those pages are tens of thousands of dollars a piece.
Carol, you remember Carol Kalish?
Yes.
I do.
Yeah. She told me that there were piles of it, artwork sitting next to an elevator door.
Yeah.
And
in the
people
kitchen,
would just press the elevator, the door would open, they'd grab some artwork, and they were out the door.
Yeah. I've got nothing but respect for Carol. She was one of the few people up there at the Marvel offices that knew who I was.
She was.
You remember people like that.
She was fantastic.
She was.
She was so smart and so good at what she did, and really young. I mean, she died. I don't think she was 30.
Too young. Yeah.
I don't think she was 30. Yeah. But that was a great hire for Marvel, and she really knew what she was doing.
Yeah. Mark Grunwald, same way, from what I understand. Nice person, but he had an encyclopedic knowledge of everything Marvel. Yeah. Had it all stored, and he was your continuity expert. If you, not like they pay any attention to continuity now, but they would ask him questions, and he'd know the answer right off the bat. He was a walking encyclopedia of Marvel knowledge.
There was a guy, I can't remember his name, at the Coronation Street thing. They gave him a job. He became the archivist because he knew more about the show than the people who made the show did. So they gave him a job, and I had to work with him for the magazine. It's really fascinating because he was younger than I was. I think I was about 32 then. He was about 30, and he would know that in episode 59, this character did this and did this, and he'd be about.
I had it down to numbers and scenes and everything.
He would be about 5 when that was on. So I'm presuming that he didn't get the knowledge from his memory, so to speak. He must have found out some other way. I can't imagine being 5 years old and remembering a storyline on a soap.
Though on the other hand, there are people out there that retain everything. Mary Lou Henner, who worked on Cheers, actress, was one of those people. They ended up doing a show off of her. It's a medical condition where you just never forget anything.
Wow.
It's amazing. They had a show on CBS of a girl that was solving crimes that had that affliction. And it's like you can't lie to her. Everything that you've said is always stored. And she was such a great actress. All she'd have to do is read the script once, and she had it.
I got to sign off, guys.
All right, Charles. Do we. We need to think about moving along. So let folks know how they can find you.
I'm on Facebook. Rammer's available on Amazon, RAMMUR. I am on Instagram, and I don't know why, but I'm also on Twitter. But Facebook is
everybody says that.
Yeah, Facebook is the way to get to me primarily. And if you want to message me and give me your email, I can send you some free stuff.
Charles, thanks so much for being on. You're welcome on all the time if you want to be on.
Real good, and Russ's idea is a good one too.
Yep, it sure is.
All right, absolutely. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you, Charles. And then there were 2.
Yeah.
Anyway, we need to go, Glenn. So let folks know how they can find you.
Yeah, get me on the usual places, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But like everybody else, I'd never go there. But if you want to get a copy of this, you can get hold of me on Facebook, and we can sort it out. And it has an introduction written by the gentleman to my right.
Some weirdo.
Yeah, some guy who knows what he's talking about.
Just some.
And you can also get all my books and magazines on Amazon. That's probably the best place if you want to get my stuff. But if you want the Kirby
in the house, thanks.
If you want to get the Kirby book, get in touch with me.
Brian says, great show, gentlemen. Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much. This has just been an experiment. Comics by night, folks.
It's been good.
Figured we'd see what the audience was like. The audience was good. The chat was great. The conversation, I think, was excellent. And we'll be back here again next week, 5 a.m.
Let me just say, I always when I talk to Charles, or when Charles on a program, I always think, I hope he's listening to this, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I always get the impression he's sort of looking for somebody to draw something for him. Do you know what I mean? And he comes on these shows. Everybody's an artist, aren't they? You know. So.
Well, it was amazing with Charles. I posted on Facebook that I was going to do the show. He contacted me within the hour and said, "Hey, doing a show early in the morning. I'm up that time. Can I come on?" I'm like, "Of course you can. You're welcome on anytime." So
yeah, that's been good.
Just great to have him. But go ahead.
Just said, just keep it going. Keep it up. We'll do it again. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll find more folks too. And the other folks will watch this as, you know, they wake up and start their new program on whatever, on the Indie Comics Network. And if you're over there on the Indie Comics Network, make sure you like and subscribe for the network. We're growing our numbers organically, which means that every subscriber is an actual person and not a paid Russian bot. We're working our way up to 1,000 subscribers. We've passed that 400 mark. It's all once you hit that 500 mark, it's all downhill from there. We'll just keep snowballing. But make sure you tell your friends and your fellow artists if you found this show remotely informative that we'll be here at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Friday mornings. We'll talk more about comics by night. So happy to be here. I've been your host, Randy Zimmernman. You can catch me next, and maybe Glenn as well, on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. for the Sunday Funny Show, where we try our best at talking about the comics and the stuff in this industry that we love. Yeah, with a sparkle in our eye and that passion that is missing so much. You used to had somebody else mentioned the other day, they used to go to a comic shop intentionally for the conversation, and they'd stand there for hours and talk to the guy behind the counter, because he knew back when people behind the counter knew every comic that was out. Back when I was retailing, we used to take all of the books home on Thursday or Wednesday, whenever they would come in. I think it was Thursday or Tuesday back then, and we would read every book that came out, so that we were able to catch people as they walked through the door and say, "Hey, if you liked X-Men, you're going to love Teen Titans. This is really good."
But don't forget, you see, that was a time when people actually talked to each other
and read. Yeah.
Now they're always stuck on the phone talking to somebody 50 miles away.
Busy trying to Twitter troll. Anyway. Yeah, back then we'd just walk in and give our opinions. You know, the latest issue of whatever absolutely sucked, and it was terrible. So that's one of the reasons I had to stop retailing, is because I'm sitting there reading this stuff going, I can write better than this. What the heck's wrong with these people? Or I could draw better than this. What the heck's wrong with these people? Yeah. And then you go out and you actually do it. You actually do the work, and you figure out that there's a method to it. There's a science and as well as a large level of creativity that you have to apply to this field. It's wonderful. Nothing better than comics. No. You know, in my mind, there's no better form of communication. There's no better form of art out there than comics. You know, movies take 50,000 people to work on it. One guy, one person in their basement, from whatever background, you know, whatever gender or whatever,
and putting
their person, their sweat equity, their bit of themselves on that drawing board or into that digital file. Nothing matches that.
And don't forget that in it, this beats film, everything in the panel is in focus.
That's true. No boom mic shadows either.
That's right. Yeah.
No sets waving.
No Oliver Stone with his script sitting on his little chair.
No actor sitting there like a deer in the headlights trying to remember their lines, or somebody, you know, speaking up around them, or repeating the line that they had just done. Just comics are a great form, folks. If you get a chance, go out to your local retailer. Make sure you tell other people about your love for this art form, because that's the only way that this spreads around. So once again, thanks everybody for being with us. We're going to go out with our opening, just in case you didn't get to see it. I spent a little bit of time working on it, putting a little bit of extra sound in it, and trying to give it the feel that we want this program to have. So take care, everybody. We're going out the way we came in. We'll see you soon. We'll see you Sunday, 9 a.m. for Sunday Funnies, and we'll see you again Wednesday nights for the Zimcast at 8 p.m. So take care, everyone. See you then.
What was that? This is not a charade. We need total concentration. Now, once again, this time, with you.
What the fuck is the matter with people in this business?
Oh, good.
Boss? Boss?
Yeah?
Boss, ain't you going to bed?
Not right now.
Ain't you planning on going to bed in the near future?
No.
You ever going to bed?
No.
Well, I ain't sleepy either.
Good, then have a drink.
You pay it!